those of you who are of a certain age or who even just watched, like, the retro throwback, Nicktoons and stuff, may find it of interest that Netflix rebooted Rocko's Modern Life. Now, those of you who've been around this channel for a while... Okay, that's a shadow. I was like, wait, do I have... No, I don't. It's a shadow. Sorry. Those of you who've been around my channel for a while know Rocko was my freaking jam when I was little, as far as the Nicktoons go. That and Rugrats were my big two. Doug kind of was in there as a third, but I mean, those were my big two. Were Rocko's and Rugrats, but Rocko's was like head and shoulders above Rugrats. So, hearing that it actually was getting a reboot, even as like just a one-time thing, I was like, I don't know whether to be super excited or to be really pissed off. Or both at the same time. I was kind of scared because I was like, please don't ruin this thing that I've loved like my entire life. But they didn't. They actually did not ruin it, and that is saying a lot, because I've seen a lot of reboots of things from my childhood that have gone horribly, horrifically wrong. Need I say more about the Powerpuff Girls? Oof, I'm not thrilled with what they did there, but that's a whole other story for a whole other day. We're talking about Rocko right now. So Netflix brought it back as a one-off special called Rocko's Modern Life Static Cling. It just dropped a few days ago. I think actually last weekend, if I'm not mistaken, so it's only just very recently been added, and I watched it like the day it came out. It was like, I meant to make a video that day, but I just was all over the place with stuff, and just now finally got around to it, so you get what you get. But anyway, I was very pleasantly surprised. So, first things first, they got all the original voice actors back for this. They got all the original animators back for all of this. I mean, so it feels very faithful to the original. And that is a rarity with things these days when they get reboots, because that's generally not a thing. But they pull it off here. And not only did they have all of those characters with the original voice actors and shit, they brought back every single character. Even though it was like a one-off special, they brought back freaking everyone. Some of them only very subtly so, some of them only for a minute, and you may, if you blink, you miss them on some of these, but I mean, oh my god, like, a lot of these characters I was like, I forgot all about so-and-so until I saw them. I was just like, it is so good to see them again. I actually got, like, really emotional over it, which sounds so stupid, and I am again right now. That is, again, really stupid, but I actually, for how well they handle this, I would love to see them spin this off into, like, a whole, like, show of its own, like, a rebooted show, even if it were only just a season. You know what? I'd be happy with that, because I have all the faith in the world after watching that they could pull it off and make it work. I mean, I knew it was a good sign when within the first couple of minutes of turning it on, freaking Nipple Man was back, and I was like, oh wow, we dug deep to bring him back. Oh my god. Nipple Man was a character I imagined in a fever dream for frigging years, because Nickelodeon decided to, like, censor it after the first time they aired it, to the point where I was like, did I imagine that? Was that a thing that happened? And, like, when they showed it again, they, like, watered it down so much to where it was like, maybe I imagined it, and then years later on the internet, oh no, I didn't imagine it, it was a thing, just they censored it after that. But, like, his nipples would shoot out, he, like, punched people with his nipples and shit. Like, it sounds backcrap insane if you didn't grow up watching this, and it was, like, one episode where this happened. My mom and I both saw it, back when it aired, the first time they aired that episode, and every time it was on again, I was like, was this funnier the first time we saw it? Because I could swear it was different than this, and it was like total Mandela effect for years until I found out, oh no, they actually censored it. But seeing that character not only come back, but actually doing stuff with his nips again, even though he wasn't punching people this time they're used for time travel. I'm sure you guys were just like, Jen, you sound like a freaking crack addict right now. And again, if you've never seen the show and you've never seen this special, I am positive that that is exactly what I sound like right now, but these are actual things in this cartoon. And yes, it's made for kids, believe it or not. Just, he's a superhero. They're not, like, naked. They're through his leotard, but I mean, he's doing time travel by making them spin, and just... You had to be there, I think. But I was just like, they brought back Nipple Man, and oh my god, they even did him justice, fuck yeah! So, I mean, I was really happy even with that just right off the bat. But basically, the gist, so Rocko, Heifer, and why am I blanking on the turtle's name? My brain wants to say Sheldon, and I know his name is not Sheldon. Crap. I can't think of his name, but the turtle, have all been barreling around in space. I honestly don't remember if the final episode of Rocko involved a rocket ship blowing through their house and knocking them into space, or if that was just for this special, but regardless, a rocket ship blew through his house and knocked him into space, and they've been stuck there for the past 20 years with nothing to entertain themselves except for an old VHS tape of the Fatheads, which... Wow, there's a name I hadn't heard in like a gazillion years and had completely forgotten about until watching this, but was just like, oh. Nice touch for the nostalgiasm that they made it in orange via VHS tape. Again, those of you of a certain age who grew up with Nickelodeon know exactly what I'm talking about. All of the Nickelodeon home release tapes were orange. And I think they were the only company allowed to use that shade for the plastic of the VHS tapes. For you youngins who are too young to know what a VHS tape is, back in the days before digital on demand and DVDs and Blu-rays, VHS tapes were a thing. I'm sure you know what VHS tapes are. I'm being facetious. I'm not that old. Well, I am, but anyway. So, that is a thing. But then disaster strikes when the VCR eats their tape. Although this brings to mind a good question. They've been in space for 20 years. What have they been eating for the past 20 years, and where has it been coming from? Like, how have they not died? Or dehydrated to death? Especially when seeing the contents of Rocko's kitchen later on when they do land. How exactly did they not die is what I want to know. I know, totally beside the point. Better question. How have they gone to the bathroom? Their house is just kind of cruising around in space that's been ripped out of the ground. Where's the plumbing hooked to? How do they have plumbing? I know I'm being overly critical of shit that does not matter to the plotline, but I thought of this immediately and was like, okay, whatever. Doesn't matter. Moving on. But anyways, so as it turns out, there's been a remote control in the house the entire time to land them back on Earth. But it's been under Heifer's butt for 20 years. Yeah. So, you know, that's a thing. Oh, and Spunky's also been in the house. And somehow, in 20 years, Spunky is still alive. For a little dog. Yep, that's a thing. Don't question it, just go with it. So, anyways, I would have been really sad if they had killed off Spunky, though. Like, let's be real. But anyways, so they land it back to Earth. Exactly in the same spot where his house had sat before, somehow. And while in some ways everything's the same, also nothing is the same, because now we're in the 21st century, and people have smartphones and shit now, and people have the internet, and there's vloggers and YouTube and shit, and all of this is included. But it is bizarre looking at what had been such a familiar setting as his town all throughout the series suddenly become modernized and industrialized, and it's just like, on one hand, cool, on the other hand, I'm uncomfortable right now. I don't know how I feel about that, but I'll roll with it. I'll see where they go with this. And, what's his face? The turtle that I can't think of his damn name becomes a vlogger and starts vlogging his every whim, pretty much. His screen name's like Fishsticks 60 something. I don't think it was 69. Maybe it was Fishsticks 69 or something. But either way, that is his screen name. Just throwing that out there. And he starts all his videos with, hey, this is Fishsticks 60, da da da. And I was like, oh my god. This is so cringy, but at the same time, I kinda love it. Like, as a vlogger, it's like poking fun at ourselves. I kind of love it. But, there's that, and Heifer is all into just all the modern conveniences of the modern world, but mostly he's into smartphones. And they have a whole thing with, like, Smartphone 8, or what was it? They didn't use Apple by name, but it was obviously supposed to be Apple. I think they used, like, wasn't the Paraphone, I don't think. What was it? Again, I'd have to watch it to see what fruit they used, but we'll just call it the Paraphone, even though that wasn't it. I don't know what it was, but I've got the Paraphone 8. Oh, well, I've got the Paraphone 9. And then up goes the sign in the window just since they bought those 5 minutes ago. Paraphone 10 now out, and friggin' stampede of people running in, and poor Rocko's just like, it's a phone. Where are the buttons? How do I use it? And just watching him try to exist in a modern world, which, given the name of the show, is kind of hilarious, even though it's dated now, but it's just cute, but also, like, self-deprecating in a I love it kind of way. And there's so many things like that. And of course, he goes next door to Mrs. Bighead's house, and Mr. Bighead is at work, and apparently everything since Rocko has left has been on the up and up for him. Till the minute Rocko comes back in town, and suddenly, oh no, everything's back in flames, because everything bad in the world somehow is Rocko's fault as far as he is concerned. His company is in shambles because of mathematical error that he made, but still had nothing to do with Rocko, but he views him as like a bad luck token. And because of that, long story short, there's a whole thing where, unless he comes up with something to save this company, like, right freaking now, yeah, he's fired and the company is no more. But Rocko, in this now modern world, having learned that the fatheads are no longer a thing and have been off the air for years, and he just cannot deal with this reality of his favorite show being gone, it's just like, but can't we get them to put more on? Can we get them to make new ones? And remembering that it was Mr. Bighead's son that makes that show, his idea is, well, if you could get your son to make more episodes of the Fatheads, then, you know, we could probably save your company. People love that show. And of course, the big kahuna, I can't think of his name, the guy that picks his nose all the time, he's just like, oh yeah, I have a team for that. They'll do it digitally with CGI. And it's like the 2 twin French lizard guys. I don't know if they have names or not, but the second I saw them, I was like, oh, I forgot all about them. I hated them, but oh my god, I forgot about them. Yeah, they're bumbling around and basically screwing it up left and right and just ruining everything that made that show what it was. And it is definitely a commentary on reboots of things. Like, the whole thing was poking fun at itself, but overall, it was really good to see all of these characters again, and not in a ruining it kind of way. So, they have to track down Mr. and Mrs. Bighead's son Ralph, the creator of the Fatheads, so they can see if he will create more episodes of this show to save his dad's career. And they go around the world trying to track down this nomadic guy who just no one knows where the hell he is. And eventually they find him in an ice cream truck. Except then it becomes known why Ralph has not seen his parents in years. Because Ralph is now Rachel. They went there. Oh yes, they went there. Little kid show, but yeah, character had a sex change. It's like, okay. On one hand, I support this. On the other hand, you are absolutely 10,000% queer baiting right now, and I see what you're doing, and that almost makes it a little squicky to me that you're doing this as a cheap cash grab, and I know you're doing it. But at the same time, it is nice seeing it such a normalized thing in a kid's show. So, I mean, I'm conflicted on that. But there's a reason that they went there. And when you hit the end of the episode, it all makes sense. It's like, oh, okay, all right. Because initially, from the point where it is known that Ralph is now Rachel, suddenly the special starts to take a turn, and where everything had felt so true to the original and everything, suddenly it takes a turn, and everything feels not only different, but it feels different in a bad way. And not only does the viewer feel like that, but Rocko also feels like that about his show that is being remade. And it's this whole parallel thing that's going on of both how the viewer's feeling while watching this, and you're also watching Rocko go through the same exact thing. It is definitely a commentary here. And there's like the whole premiere thing when Rachel does eventually decide to save the show, which is saying something because her father then rejects her because not his son anymore, so not his problem, basically, and wants nothing to do with it, is totally in denial, which, I mean, you know, again, queerbaiting, but on the other hand, normalizing, but also showing the reality of, you know, not everyone is accepting of that right away, even if they learn to be accepting later, even when it's your own family. And I'm like, that did add a touch of realism to it, to where I was like, I mean, it hurts, but at the same time, I appreciate that they did it that way, because it does feel more authentic because of it. You know, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing that without actually watching it, it's hard to explain, but I think you'd see what I meant, because of the way that they ended up handling it. Because initially I was like, oh, that's some bullcrap right there, but the way that it ends up panning out, it ends up being okay. But initially I was just like, what? Why? Why would you do that? Why are we doing this? But no, it ends up alright. And of course the mom, being as sweet as she is just supporting the whole way through. So I mean, I appreciated that there was at least one that was supporting Rachel the whole time. But the whole thing culminates when at the premiere of the new Fatheads thing, all of a sudden, Rocko just has this fucking meltdown over, no, this is all wrong, it's new, it's different, I don't like it, I want it to go back to how it was, and it's just having this whole freaking existential crisis over this, and you're realizing as you're watching it that the way they've handled this special as of that turning point, the viewer themselves has more or less been starting to feel little inklings of that just while watching it. And by the time Rocko has that outburst, it's like, yeah, that! But then it all gets flipped around to, you know, just because it's new and just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad. And, like, they go about it in a whole way that ends up being sweet. It's rushed, but it's sweet, and they do have a point, and Rocko ends up okay, and everybody ends up okay, and it's all great and fluffy and whatever, but they did rush that part. That's my main complaint, is that they rushed it for the ending. And if this were going to be a show, I would not have had as big a problem, because I know they were going to expand on this maybe in future episodes, but as a one-off, I'm like, oh, kind of wish they'd maybe stretch this out a little longer, since the whole thing's only 45 minutes. Like, maybe if they'd fleshed it out to an hour, that last 15 minutes could have, you know, expanded on this to just the Goldilocks point of just right, you know? But, who am I to judge? I'm not the one who created it, so whatever. But overall, once you see that, and then it hits that point, you realize that, oh, I see what they did. Just because it's new and different doesn't mean it's bad. Not only are they speaking of the reboot, they're also speaking of the trans character, and overall, the whole overarching plot of the entire thing. It's like, I see what you did there. And you went very meta with it. And I'm like, okay, for like half a second they had lost me, but they reeled me back in at the end. I'm like, I appreciate the way they did that. That does work. That does work. Huh. Okay. Alright. Overall, I think I am pretty happy with the way that they went about it, and I would love to see them do more with this, especially since they do have all the same people involved in this, and I don't think I've really heard anyone say anything bad about this special so far, so I mean, it seems to be being received really well. I think a show would be too, if they wanted to throw the money and effort at it, but I don't know. This is just me speculating. I have no idea if they have plans for that, or if this was truly just a one-off thing. If it was just a one-off thing, it was fun to get to see the characters again. Still wish it were a show, but I mean, even as a one-off, I'm happy that it happened, which is more than I can say for most of the reboots, because most of the reboots just pissed me off, but this one I was like, this one did leave me feeling pretty happy by the end of it, and that is a freaking rarity with these. So, I don't know. If you grew up with Rocko, I would highly recommend it. If you didn't grow up with Rocko, I would say skip it just because a lot of the subtle jokes with it are gonna go over your head because you don't have the back history with the series to draw from, to know what they're making the jokes with and who these subtle side characters all are. But if you grew up with it, I think, you know, you'll appreciate it. And it was always a special thing for me since I grew up not having cable at home. I only got to watch Nickelodeon at my grandparents' houses, which, I mean, to be fair, I was at one or the other most days of the week, so I did get to see a fair amount of it, but it always felt like a special thing because it was something I couldn't do at home. I could only do at one of their houses. So when those shows came on, it felt like a real treat. So there's always been like a special sentimental place of nostalgia in my heart for those shows. And getting to see this one not only get a comeback, but to be done well, I was like, I'm so happy that they did that, actually. So, anyways, that's pretty much my thoughts on it. You may feel differently, but those are mine. So, anyways, that is it for this one. You guys know what to do. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. If you're not already and you'd like to be, click subscribe, hit that notification bell icon so you never miss an upload. Leave comments down below. Have any of you guys watched the special yet? If so, what did you guys think of it? Good, bad, or otherwise? Even if you didn't like it, tell me why you didn't like it. If you're just mad about it, tell me why you're mad about it. If you loved it, fangirl with me down in the comments. Anything and everything about anything at all, leave it down below in those comments. Make sure you're following my social media accounts, my Facebook fan page, my Twitter, my Instagram, my Etsy, everything and more. It's all down below. And if you like what I do here on this channel and you'd like to help support it, the donation link, as always, is down in the description. Anyway, guys, till next time, bye-bye.